Hey, Aubrey, question for you.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Hey, so does your day often go according to plan?
No, not often. My day is a living, breathing thing. It is constantly changing. Kids' plans change. Something comes up that I have to just reschedule everything. What about you? Do
I
your
would
days go
imagine
according to
on
plan?
your end with 4 kids, I mean, things going
Yeah.
on, soccer games, everything. Wow. I would say probably less variable than your day is my guess.
Kids
But
throwing a monkey wrench in everything.
right. But there is obviously some variety and things changing a lot. I
For
was gonna go to
sure.
the gym. I decide not to go to the gym. I do this instead. Things change for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, you guys
Yeah.
might have noticed I said my day is a living, breathing thing. This is interesting personification. I'm almost describing it like it's a monster, something that actually is alive and breathing. And this has inspired Michelle said this recently in an episode. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's awesome. I want to do a whole episode about idioms with breathe and breathing.
I love when we kind of put a character to an idea, to
Yeah.
words. We love that, kind of personification in a way, right?
Exactly, right? So stay
Yeah.
tuned. We're going to share at the end of the episode when Michelle talked about that to make sure you don't miss that and hit follow so that
Yeah.
you're not missing any of our amazing episodes.
Oh my gosh, we published some very cool episodes, especially this past summer and moving into the fall. We've got some really good stuff coming up for you guys. So hit the follow button so that All Ears English automatically appears in your queue. All right.
All right.
Good. So today we have what, Aubrey, for our listeners?
Yeah, some awesome idioms that we use in English about breathe, breathing. A lot of these use personification like that. This first one that we used in a recent episode to call something a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
This is fun. You can describe anything this way that is very dynamic, that is constantly changing.
Yes. For example, writing a book, right? The book I'm writing is a living, breathing thing. Yeah,
Yeah, or someone's relationship, right? Our relationship
mm,
is a living, breathing thing. It's constantly changing.
yeah. So you're really emphasizing that it's not static, right? That's kind of
Exactly.
the opposite. That's why I love Google Docs, Google Drive, and Google Docs, because my big issue with Microsoft Word or PowerPoint is the most recent version sits on someone's computer. Whose computer? Who has the most recent version? You don't know.
Right. That's such a good example, right? Google Docs are living, breathing things because they're just constantly changing and updating.
Yeah, nothing makes me more crazy than updating an old version, and then
Oh, right.
what do you do? And so thank goodness for Google
Right.
Drive, Google Docs, because we do 90% of our work in Drive, wouldn't you say,
Yes,
Aubrey?
it's made it a lot easier for companies to go online more. You don't have to all be in the same room sharing updated
Yeah.
docs with each other. It's made a huge difference. But this brings up
Yeah.
an interesting point that this chunk is only used to describe things that actually aren't really alive and breathing. You would never say about a person, like, my son is
Yes.
a living, breathing thing. No, that's so weird. What? We just use this to
We hope
describe
so,
something
yes.
that isn't alive to mean that it
Interesting.
changes often.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And just to kind of come back to that thread, I think companies that need that the live documents use SharePoint if they have more budget, like the corporate
Oh,
environment. So they do
interesting.
have that option of a living, breathing document through SharePoint to share things. But yes,
Mm.
that is a very important point that you're not talking about people because we know they're living and breathing, or animals. We know
Exactly, this
they're
is
living and breathing.
idiomatic to give
Mhm.
that sort of to personify, to give this human
Yes.
quality to something that is not actually alive.
You got it, Aubrey. Good stuff. What would be the second one then? Moving into more breathing idioms.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
All of these have breathe or breathing, and this is a really fun one to say that you're breathing down someone's neck or someone else is breathing down your
ooh.
neck. This means either very physically close or like you're monitoring closely, usually in an irritating way.
Yes. I think would you say that this one comes up more commonly with the physical in person meaning than rather than the like the more
Oh, that's a good
abstract use of that?
question. I do think both.
Okay.
For sure, if you're right there close to someone, they might say, "Stop breathing down my neck."
Yeah.
But if someone is micromanaging you, even if you're not in the
Yeah.
same physical space,
Yeah.
they
It
still
makes
might
sense.
say, like, "I don't mean to breathe down your neck. I just need to make sure that you stay on task. This is very important."
It does make sense when you say that. Like people would get it if you are using it in that more abstract way, right?
Yeah, and it's more just like an interesting way to say, I don't mean to micromanage you, right?
Correct.
To
Correct.
instead, we sort of make it a little more lighthearted by saying, I don't mean to breathe down your neck.
Yeah, whenever we want to take weirdness out of a situation, we do create idioms and we create other ways of saying them instead of directly saying, I don't want to micromanage, I guess is the term, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And it is a little more lighthearted to say this to someone who is either micromanaging you or, however it's happening, you feel like you're being overly monitored, overly directed to be like, okay, stop breathing down my neck. I've got this.
Got it. Perfect. I love it. These are good ones today, right? It's all about breathing. I mean, breath is the key to life.
Right? So it makes
What would
sense that we have a lot of idioms about
it
breath and
does.
breathing.
It does. What would be number 3?
Okay, number 3 is to breathe new life into something. This means to
Yes.
rejuvenate something, usually that has become sort of dull or stale.
Yes, I love this idea, refreshing things, right?
Yes.
So for example, in your marriage or your love life, you need to do things to breathe a new life, right? Breathe. For example, we started going on dates every weekend, and it has breathed new life into our marriage. A lot of couples do that, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you start feeling, especially once you have children, I can speak for
Mm,
myself. It's really
yeah,
easy to get very busy showing the
yeah.
children attention and helping them with all their things. And the marriage can sort of be put on the back burner. And you might need to do things to
Yes.
breathe new life into your marriage, whatever that is for you.
That makes total sense. That makes total
Yeah.
sense. So very common expression. And then what would be another one?
Yeah, you might say, maybe a gym membership, right? Getting a gym membership breathed new life into my exercise routine. So anything
Mm.
it's rejuvenating. Maybe you had gotten bored with what you were doing or you weren't exercising at all. Getting a gym membership could breathe new life into your routine.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest potential pitfall of today's episode, Aubrey, is the spelling of breathe versus breath, because I know that even native speakers get confused here.
Yes,
I
that's a
get
good
confused
point.
sometimes. So let's just break this down for a minute before we go to break and make sure our listeners know we're
Sure.
talking about breath, like your breath, the thing, the noun versus the verb to breathe. What's the difference in spelling?
This is really something tricky that English does, right? The noun is breath with no E at the end. So it's pronounced a little differently, breath. And
Hmm.
then when an E is added, now it's a verb, breathe. To breathe, of course, you're taking in oxygen, you're breathing, and we use it idiomatically like this to breathe new life into something.
Yeah, so we have to find a way to remember that. Maybe there's a way for our listeners to create some kind of mnemonic device to remember, but it is one of those native speaker mistakes, I think, that
Yeah.
people do get confused about.
There is a
Yeah.
good little rule that whenever there's an E at the end of the word, it makes the
Mm.
vowel say its name. So, for example, if
Ooh,
you
that's
have
good.
like bat and then E is at the end, now it's bait, B A
Breathe.
T E,
Uh
because the
huh.
A would say its name when there's an E at the end. And that works here too. The only tricky thing is you have both vowels, right? E and A. The first
Right.
vowel says its name. So, when there's an E
Love
at
it.
the end, it'll be breathe. And
Hmm.
instead of that sound, E is saying its letter name, E.
Love it. Yeah, whatever you need to do to kind of remember, but make sure we're not mixing those up, guys. All right. Good. All right. Aubrey, moving into number 4. Also very common to breathe a sigh of relief. What is this?
Yeah, this means to suddenly feel very happy or relieved because something unpleasant usually didn't happen or has
Yeah.
ended. We say, "Oh, I breathed a sigh of relief," or "I'm going to breathe a sigh of relief when that is over."
Right. So, for example, we have an election coming up very soon when this episode comes out very soon. And we're all just a little on edge. I think everyone
Right.
is.
No one knows what's going to happen, so we might say, "I'll breathe a sigh of relief once the election is over."
Yes. Or she breathed a sigh of relief after the interview was over. For sure. For sure.
Right. Anything
Or
stressful, anything you've been nervous about, once it's over, you'd say this, "Whew, okay, now I can breathe a sigh of relief."
yes, 100%. 100%. Yeah. So, all right, let's get into a role play, Aubrey, shall we? Go into a
Yeah,
role
you and I
play?
are waiting to take an exam for this role play.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're maybe at a testing center at college, maybe taking a
Mm-hmm.
teacher certification exam, something that's pretty high
Ooh,
stakes.
yes. Okay. We've all been in those positions,
Right?
right? Yeah.
Exactly. I'll start us out. I'm so nervous. I feel like my anxiety is a living, breathing thing.
I will definitely breathe a sigh of relief after this test is over.
My mom has been breathing down my neck every night to study.
I haven't been able to do anything but study. I'll definitely breathe new life It'll definitely breathe new life into my schedule to be past this.
Nice.
Yes.
A lot of breathe and breathing in this role play.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure. Oh my gosh, yes, and I know we can all imagine. I mean, Aubrey, you and Jessica talk about the IELTS exam,
Yes,
you
this
know,
is
2 days a
very
week.
common for IELTS
Yeah.
students. On your
Mhm.
test day, immediately afterward, you breathe a sigh of relief. Maybe someone's
Mhm.
breathing down your neck to spend more time studying, right? We've
Yes.
all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Guys, go check out the IELTS Energy podcast to get tips on IELTS if that is in your future. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go back into this now. So, first, so this is fun. So, we talked about something being alive, feeling alive, seeming alive. I feel, you said, I'm so nervous that I feel like my anxiety is a living, breathing thing. So, again, what are you saying here?
Yeah, it's an interesting way to talk about how much something is taking over your mind or your life, right? If I'm like,
Yeah.
my anxiety, I'm sort of personifying it like this monster that's alive and breathing because it's so ever present right now.
Yeah, and it also implies when we say something is a living, breathing thing, it kind of implies that it has more needs more maintenance in a way. You need to
Right? It's
maintain
taking
it
more
in
of your
some
attention.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's true.
exactly, right? This is such a fun idiom, but it is a little more specific. It has to be
Yes.
something pretty big, important that's taking a lot of your attention for you to call it a living, breathing thing.
Nice. Okay. And then I said, yes, I will definitely breathe a sigh of relief after this test is over. I mean, and this was, yeah, as a kid, I remember, or even just on Friday afternoon, breathing a sigh of relief. The week is over. This is a very human experience.
Yeah, this can be for big things like these high stakes exams, or like you said, just Friday, just
Friday
after
afternoon.
anything where you're just like, whew, breathing at that sigh of relief, ready for the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Or in summer when school let out for summer, that was always kind of nice. That kind of a bit of that feeling too, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
All right.
then you said, it'll definitely breathe. And oh, no, I first said, my mom has been breathing down my neck every night to study. So imagine I'm still living at home. Maybe I'm procrastinating studying. This wouldn't
Yeah.
mean that my mom is necessary. She might be physically
She
there,
might be.
study, or she might be texting me all the time. Have you
Right.
studied? Have you been studying? Right. I
Yep.
might even be not living at home and I'm not seeing her physically. And just because she's texting me reminders a lot, I could still say, oh, she's been breathing down my neck.
And that's almost a more interesting way to use it too, isn't it?
Yeah. Rather
Right?
than physically and literally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Although it is quite an image of your mom standing behind you at the kitchen table, kind of like looking on to your studying, right?
With like
Looking
a
on your page.
timer, right? Tapping the table.
Yeah, it's true. And then I said, "Oh, I haven't been able to do anything but study." And I would put an emphasis on but study, right? To really, really emphasize I'm studying a lot. I'll definitely, it'll, sorry, I keep on saying I'll, but it should be, it will. It will definitely breathe new life into my schedule to be past this. So I'm
Yeah,
saying
so
it's
you're
going to
thinking of your
open up.
schedule has become kind of dull and boring. All there is studying. So it's like once I'm done,
Mm,
that's going to really
yes.
breathe new life into my schedule.
It's going to leave a space, a wide open space that I can paint on the canvas and fill it in as I want, right? It's a really refreshing
Exactly.
feeling. So good.
Yes, so
Um,
awesome.
I was told recently that I am a chest breather, which is apparently not good. Too much
Oh,
breathing up here and not enough breathing in the belly.
from your
And so
diaphragm, from your belly?
yeah, I form
Interesting.
the chest. So, like everything happening up here, which constricts. So, I'm working on belly breathing these days to
Okay.
get
That's
more
probably
power in
true
the
for me too.
voice.
Good
Yeah. I
to
mean,
know.
the reason I know that is because when I go to a conference or when, even if sometimes if we record a marathon, I lose my
Mm.
voice at the end. So that means I'm using too much of the voice box and not enough of the belly and like the center, the core. Yeah.
Interesting. If you were an opera singer, you would know how to do that, singing
Mm.
from the diaphragm, right?
Yes, 100%. So that is my personal
Interesting.
goal for this quarter. So
Awesome.
anyways, Aubrey, where should we go to get a related episode?
Yeah, I wanna make sure that you guys know where this came from, where were inspired to have this
Yeah.
episode. Michelle, in episode 2263, which was "What's your takeaway? Be a better speaker by sharing the bottom line." You could scroll up to see that one. If you're following, you hopefully saw this, heard this. Maybe you guys caught that when Michelle was talking about recording episodes. She said, "All Ears English episodes are a living, breathing thing. They're not scripted. They change as we go, and we figure out the takeaway as we chat."
Such a fun use of language, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think that's a way to connect too. When we feel like we're having fun with English, instead of being in that grip of perfectionism, now we're having fun with it. People want to connect with us right away because there is that joy in our eyes. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And when we're using idioms, it's so much more fun, right? It makes your
Oh,
language more interesting. This is a great takeaway that all of these idioms today are quite, like you said, joyful. We're talking about breathing new life and breathing a sigh of relief. And you want to be able to use this idiomatic language.
I love it. So, guys, put a few of these into your conversations this week and let us know how it goes. Send in your questions to support@allearsenglish.com. If you have a follow up from today or another specific question, we love getting your questions. All right.
Absolutely. Awesome, Lindsay. This is really fun. I love all of these idioms.
All right. Good stuff, Aubrey. I'll see you in the next one. Take
See you next
care.
time. Bye.
Bye.